They told me Grandpa's secrets were gone, but I found the book they tried to bury, and what I saw inside could ruin everything. The attic smelled of dust and old memories. Mom was tossing boxes into the trash when my eyes caught it, a worn, leather-bound book sliding toward the bin. Something inside me stirred. I reached for it silently, my heart racing. Flipping through the fragile pages, I realized this wasn't just a diary. It held hidden bank accounts, cryptic instructions, and names that should never be revealed. My hands shook. Some entries were harmless memories of Grandpa's life, but one section made my blood run cold. Accounts under fake names, instructions to access them, wealth that had been hidden for decades, and someone in my family knew. I went to the bank that morning, testing one number from the book. The teller's eyes widened. This account? Are you sure it belongs to you? I nodded quietly, feeling the weight of possibilities and danger. Because once Grandpa's secrets were exposed, nothing would ever be the same. And that's when I realized someone had been watching me all along. The family I trusted might be the ones hiding the darkest betrayal, and I wasn't going to let them win. After I brought Grandpa's secret book into my room, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every word, every hidden account, every cryptic note weighed heavily on me. Mom started acting different. Her smiles were forced, her glances lingered too long. She asked questions that seemed casual, but her tone was sharp, almost calculating. "Why are you spending so much time in the attic?" she asked, her eyes scanning my face like she was searching for something. I smiled lightly, pretending innocence. I didn't let her see that I already knew more than she imagined. That night, I pored over the pages again. Accounts, secret deposits, hidden properties. And one line stood out. A large sum hidden under a false name. Money that could change everything if I ever claimed it. It clicked. Mom hadn't thrown the book away out of carelessness. She had done it out of fear. Fear that I would discover the truth. Fear that her carefully maintained control over the family secrets would crumble. The next day, I went back to the bank. A different teller handled me this time. Her reaction was instant. Shock, almost disbelief. "This account, it hasn't been active for years. Who gave you access?" I stayed silent. Silence had become my strongest weapon. I began watching Mom carefully. Her secretive phone calls, sudden trips, whispered conversations. I noted everything. She wasn't just hiding money. She was hiding something much darker. Every lie she told, every secret she buried, was creating a mountain, and I planned to climb that mountain and tear it down from the top. The game had begun. I was no longer the girl who would stay silent. I was the woman who would wait, watch, and strike. The days after discovering Grandpa's secret book, nothing felt normal anymore. Mom was always watching, always calculating. Her words became sharper, her tone colder, as if she knew I had uncovered something. Then I noticed it. Her phone calls were no longer whispers in the house. She was meeting someone she trusted completely, but I didn't. I decided to follow her one evening. The night was chilly, streetlights casting long shadows on the quiet Omaha streets. I trailed her to a sleek office building downtown. Through the tinted glass, I saw her speaking to a man in a suit. His expression was serious. He handed her a folder. She nodded. And I realized she had allies working behind my back. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I retreated into the shadows, watching. Every gesture, every word, every file she exchanged became a piece of the puzzle. It was clear now. Mom wasn't just hiding Grandpa's secrets. She was actively plotting. Someone powerful was helping her manipulate accounts, erase traces, cover her tracks. The adrenaline surged through me. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control, betrayal, power. I began planning my next moves. Every step I took had to be careful, calculated. Because if she sensed I was onto her, she wouldn't hesitate to destroy the evidence, or me. That night, I returned home and hid the book in a secure place only I knew. I couldn't let Mom find it, not yet. Because the real game, the real revenge and justice, was only beginning, and I would make sure she realized one day that no lie could ever hide from the truth. I stopped reacting. That was my first weapon. Mom expected confrontation, tears, accusations. She expected me to explode. Instead, I became quiet, dangerously quiet. The next morning, I made her coffee like usual. I smiled. I asked about her day. I acted like the daughter who knew nothing. But inside, I was building a case. I returned to the bank, this time prepared. I requested transaction histories, archived records, signature verifications. The manager was called in. He studied the account numbers from Grandpa's book and frowned. These transfers, they were authorized under power of attorney. My stomach tightened. Power of attorney? Grandpa had been sick during his final year, weak, confused, vulnerable, and someone had taken control. I didn't say Mom's name. Not yet. Instead, I asked for certified copies. Paper leaves trails, and trails expose predators. That evening, I searched through Grandpa's old documents, medical records, legal paperwork, insurance forms, and then I found it. A power of attorney document signed just 3 months before he passed. The signature looked wrong, slightly shaky, almost forced. And the witness? The same man I saw Mom meeting downtown. My hands went cold. This wasn't careless inheritance handling. This was calculated, strategic, predatory. Mom had tried to erase the book because the book was proof. Proof that Grandpa didn't give anything away. It was taken. I didn't cry. I didn't confront her. I scanned everything, backed it up, stored copies in places she could never reach, because revenge isn't emotional, it's surgical. That night, Mom knocked on my door, softly. "You've been distant lately," she said. Her eyes searched my face, testing me, measuring risk. I smiled gently, just thinking about Grandpa. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. She believed she was still in control. But she had no idea. I had already pulled the first thread. And once you start unraveling something like this, it never stops. The next morning, I received a voicemail from a restricted number. A male voice. Calm. Controlled. Stop looking into accounts that don't belong to you. Then silence. No name. No threats. Just a warning. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just family betrayal. This was something bigger. And I had just stepped into it. I replayed the voicemail at least 10 times. Stop looking into accounts that don't belong to you. Not angry, not loud, just controlled. That's what scared me the most. This wasn't panic. This was confidence. Whoever called believed they had power. But fear? Fear only works if you show it. And I didn't. The next day, I changed my routine. Different routes, different timing. I stopped posting online. I locked down my accounts. If they were watching me, I wanted them confused. Because confusion creates mistakes. Then something happened. I received an email from the bank manager. Subject line, Irregular Authorization Inquiry. Attached was a scanned copy of Grandpa's power of attorney. But this version wasn't identical to the one I found at home. The witness signature was slightly different. The date formatting didn't match. One of them was forged, which meant someone altered official documents. I drove downtown, straight to the office building where Mom had met that man. I didn't go inside. I sat across the street, watching, studying patterns. At 6:17 p.m., he exited the building. Same tailored suit, same cold expression. He checked his surroundings before getting into his car. That wasn't the behavior of an innocent financial advisor. That was someone protecting secrets. That night, Mom tried something new. She came into my room holding an old photo album. Grandpa and me when I was little. She sat beside me. "He trusted me," she said softly. "Everything I did was to protect this family." Protect? Is that what we call it now? Theft disguised as responsibility? Forgery labeled as protection? I didn't argue. Instead, I asked one simple question. Why did you throw the book away? Her expression froze. Just for a second. But that second was everything. She stood up slowly. Some things are better left buried. And that confirmed it. Later that night, my laptop camera light flickered. Just for a second. My chest tightened. Someone had attempted remote access. Not random. Targeted. This wasn't just about inheritance anymore. This was damage control. And I was the threat. The next morning, I received a certified letter. Legal notice. It stated that I was being formally warned against interfering with protected financial estates. Protected? By who? Because Grandpa was gone, and I never signed anything. They were escalating, using fear, using law, using surveillance. But here's what they didn't understand. I wasn't trying to steal anything. I was trying to expose them, and exposure is far more dangerous than money. That night, I made my decision. If they wanted to intimidate me, I would go public, but not recklessly, strategically, calculated, precise. I opened a new encrypted file, title, Operation Unravel, and inside I placed every document, every signature discrepancy, every transfer, every meeting time, every threat. Because when I strike, it won't be emotional. It will be irreversible. But as I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time a text. You don't understand who you're fighting. I stared at it and smiled. Because now I understood perfectly. The scariest enemies aren't the ones who threaten you. They're the ones who smile at breakfast. 2 days after the warning text, I noticed something small. Too small for most people to care about, but not for me. The secret folder on my external drive had been accessed. Not opened, not edited, just accessed. At 2:13 a.m., and I wasn't awake at 2:13 a.m. I checked the router logs. One unfamiliar device had connected briefly that night. Internal access. Inside the house. My chest tightened. That meant one thing. Someone under this roof was helping them. I stayed calm. Fear makes noise, and I needed silence. At dinner, I watched everyone carefully. Mom looked composed, too composed. But it wasn't her that gave it away. It was my younger brother, Ethan. He couldn't meet my eyes. His leg bounced under the table. His phone screen kept lighting up. And when I casually mentioned Grandpa's name, he flinched. Just slightly, but enough. Later that night, I knocked on his door. He hesitated before opening it. "Everything okay?" I asked gently. He nodded too quickly, too defensively. I stepped inside without waiting for permission. His laptop was open, and there it was, an email draft, addressed to the same downtown law office. Subject line, update on her activity. My stomach dropped. He wasn't just scared. He was reporting me. He tried to close the screen. Too late. I saw enough. "How much are they paying you?" I asked quietly. His face went pale. "You don't understand," he whispered. "They said you could destroy everything." Everything. That word again. Control always hides behind protection. He told me Mom convinced him I was unstable, that I was obsessing, that I might ruin the family name. And the downtown man? He promised Ethan a business investment, startup capital, if he kept them informed. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. Because this wasn't about emotions anymore. This was strategy. And now I knew exactly how deep it went. Mom, the lawyer, and my own brother. A coordinated defense system. Against me. That night, I did something unexpected. I deleted the obvious files, left decoys, planted misleading information, fake meeting times, false document copies. Because if Ethan was feeding them information, I would control what they consumed. The next morning, something beautiful happened. The downtown lawyer showed up at our house, angry, demanding, because the information Ethan sent them led them into a legal trap, a false filing, a compliance alert. Now they were exposed, watching, reacting, panicking. Mom's mask cracked for the first time. "What did you do?" she demanded. I tilted my head slightly. "I'm just protecting the family." Her own words reflected back at her. But this wasn't victory yet, because as the lawyer left, he looked directly at me. No fear, no panic, just cold calculation. And before stepping into his car, he said, "You just escalated this." That's when I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just financial fraud. It was bigger, much bigger. And I had just forced them into the open, which means they might stop playing clean. The gala felt like a funeral dressed as a celebration. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above polished marble floors. Politicians laughed too loudly. Investors clinked champagne glasses. Cameras flashed. And at the center of it all, Richard Hale, smiling, confident, untouchable. Notice the quiet ones. I watched him shake hands with city officials, the same officials who approved land deals tied to Grandpa's old company, the same officials who suddenly got very rich after Grandpa's accident. Everything connected. Every thread led back to him. But tonight wasn't about confrontation. Tonight was about exposure. Earlier that day, I had met someone I never expected, a retired federal accountant named Walter Green. His name appeared in the ledger dozens of times. When I knocked on his apartment door, he almost didn't open it. "I don't talk about Hale," he said immediately. "I'm not asking you to," I replied calmly. "I'm asking you to protect yourself." I slid copies of Grandpa's coded transactions across his table. His hands shook. "They were never supposed to use it," he whispered. "The offshore accounts were safeguards, emergency reserves. Your grandfather was planning to expose them." Expose them? Expose what? I asked. Walter looked at me like a man finally too tired to lie. The land redevelopment project? It wasn't redevelopment. It was displacement, forced buyouts, threats, fires that started mysteriously. My stomach tightened. "They eliminated him before he could testify," Walter finished. Silence filled the room like smoke. "They?" I pressed. He hesitated. Richard wasn't alone. Back at the gala, I moved through the crowd slowly. My phone buzzed. A message from the private investigator I hired 2 days ago. "Check the board members list. 3 names connected to suspicious fire cases in 2012. I pulled up the list discreetly. 3 men stood beside Richard right now, laughing. My heart pounded, but my face remained neutral. I walked toward the balcony for air, and that's when someone stepped into my path. Richard. Up close, his smile looked rehearsed. "You've been very curious lately," he said softly. Ice slid down my spine. "Excuse me?" I kept my tone light. He leaned closer. "Your grandfather was curious too." The air between us turned heavy. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he continued, "but digging into old stories can be dangerous." A threat. Subtle, polished, wrapped in charm. I met his eyes. I don't scare easily. For a split second, his smile disappeared. "I admire that," he said calmly, "but you should ask yourself something." "What?" "Why did your mother throw that book away?" My breath caught. He knew. He knew about the book. My mind raced. Was he guessing, or had he been watching me? "I don't know what you're talking about," I said quietly. He chuckled. "You will." Then he walked away, leaving me with one horrifying realization. He wasn't afraid of what I knew. He was confident I didn't know enough. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I spread every document across my living room floor. Ledger copies, bank records, Grandpa's notes. There was one line I kept ignoring, a phrase written in capital letters. The trust isn't the asset. If the trust wasn't the asset, then what was? Suddenly, I remembered something from Walter's apartment, a passing comment. They were never supposed to use it. Use what? Not the money, the structure, the offshore network, the system Grandpa built. Was it meant to protect someone or trap someone? I grabbed the ledger again. This time, I focused on the dates. The same years the fires happened. The same years land was forcefully acquired. And one more detail, a pattern in the routing numbers. They weren't random. They formed coordinates. Coordinates. My pulse quickened. I entered them into Google Maps. The location loaded. An abandoned warehouse outside the city, owned by a shell company, registered under Grandpa's trust. My breath stopped. Grandpa didn't just hide money. He left a location. The next morning, I drove there. The warehouse stood alone, rusted and quiet. No security, no activity, just silence. Too quiet. I stepped inside carefully. Dust floated in the sunlight, slicing through broken windows. Old crates lined the walls, and in the center, a metal filing cabinet, locked. My heart hammered. This was it. This was what Grandpa meant. The trust wasn't the asset. This was. I pulled out the small key taped inside the back cover of the book. My hands trembled as I slid it into the lock. Click. The drawer opened. Inside, a sealed envelope, marked with one word, confession. Footsteps echoed behind me. Slow, deliberate. I froze. A familiar voice filled the warehouse. I was hoping you'd find this. I turned slowly. Richard stood in the doorway, and this time, he wasn't smiling. The word confession burned in my hands. Richard stood 10 feet away, sunlight cutting across his face through the broken warehouse windows. No charm, no polished smile, just calculation. You're persistent, he said calmly, just like him. I swallowed. You killed my grandfather. His jaw tightened slightly. That's a dangerous accusation. So is arson, fraud, murder. The silence between us stretched like a loaded weapon. He stepped closer, slow and controlled. You think you're uncovering something brave, he said, but you're walking into something you don't understand. I held the envelope tighter. Then help me understand. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? No. Fear. Not of me, of what was inside that envelope. You shouldn't open that, he said quietly. That was all I needed to hear. I tore it open. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten letter, Grandpa's handwriting. My vision blurred for a moment, but I forced myself to read. If you are reading this, it means they either silenced me or failed to find this. Richard Hale is not the architect. He is the face. The real power sits above him. The trust was designed to record everything, every transfer, every illegal acquisition, every fire paid for. If I disappear, release the files. Burn their empire the way they burned our city. My hands started shaking. Richard wasn't the mastermind. He was a shield, a well-paid, well-protected shield. You see? Richard's voice was steady, but his breathing wasn't. You're chasing ghosts. No, I said softly. I'm chasing monsters. I held up the flash drive. You've had years to destroy this, I said. Why didn't you? His eyes darkened. Because I didn't know where it was. That told me everything. He wasn't here to threaten me. He was here to retrieve it. Who's above you? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he said something unexpected. "You think revenge will feel satisfying?" I stepped closer. "I don't want satisfaction." "What do you want?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "Truth." His composure cracked just slightly. "You don't understand how high this goes," he whispered. "Judges, senators, federal contracts, they don't lose." "They do," I replied, "when someone isn't afraid to lose everything." That's when I saw it. Movement outside. 2 black SUVs pulling into the dirt lot. Richard saw them too. And for the first time, he looked afraid. "You contacted someone," I said. His voice dropped. "Not them." Doors slammed outside. Heavy footsteps. "Not police. Private security. Armed." My stomach dropped. They weren't here for me. They were here for the drive.
Richard grabbed my arm suddenly. "Listen to me," he said urgently. "If they get that, you're dead. And I'm useless. You're already useless." He leaned in closer. "You need me alive." I hated that he might be right. The warehouse door burst open. Men in dark suits entered, weapons visible but not raised. Professional. Cold. One of them spoke calmly. "Miss Carter, hand over the device." They knew my name. Of course they did. Richard stepped slightly in front of me. Not protectively, strategically. "You don't want this here," he said. The man's eyes shifted to him. "You were instructed to retrieve it quietly." Retrieve, not destroy. So they wanted control.
My mind raced. Grandpa said release the files, not give them away. I had one advantage. They didn't know if I already copied it. "Too late," I said clearly. All eyes snapped to me. "It's already uploaded," I lied. A dangerous gamble. The room went still. The lead man studied my face. "You're bluffing. Try me." Richard slowly turned his head toward me. "Did you?" he whispered under his breath. I didn't answer, because I hadn't. But I could. The tension was suffocating. One wrong move, and this warehouse becomes my grave. The lead man lifted his phone. "If the files surface, you disappear first," he said calmly. Then he looked at Richard. "You failed." Failed. So Richard wasn't just involved. He was being monitored, controlled, just like everyone else. The men stepped back toward the exit. "This isn't over," the leader said. "It just started," I replied. The SUVs drove off, dust filling the air behind them. Silence returned. But it felt heavier now, more dangerous. Richard ran a hand through his hair. "You have no idea what you just triggered." "Good," I said. He looked at me carefully. "You're not afraid." "I am," I admitted, "but I'm more angry." That made him pause. "Anger makes people reckless." "No," I said quietly. "It makes them unstoppable." I looked down at the flash drive. This wasn't just about Grandpa anymore. This was about a network, a machine, and I was holding the lever that could break it, but only if I played it right. One wrong move, and I lose everything. One smart move, and their empire burns. I slipped the drive into my purse. Richard watched me carefully. "You can't fight them alone," he said. I met his eyes. "I won't." His expression shifted. "Who else knows?" I gave him a small, calm smile. "You're about to find out." Because the moment I got home, I wasn't going to the police. I was going to the media. And once this story goes public, there will be no controlling it. But as I walked toward my car, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. "Your mother knows more than you think." I froze, slowly, terrified, and for the first time since this began, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about betrayal. Again. The message wouldn't leave my mind. Your mother knows more than you think. I sat in my car outside the warehouse long after Richard disappeared into the shadows. My hands were steady, but my thoughts weren't. Because if this was true, then the betrayal didn't start with Richard. It didn't start with the fire. It started at home. I didn't go to the media. Not yet. Instead, I drove straight to my mother's house, the same house where Grandpa used to sit on the porch every Sunday morning, the same house where she threw his book into the trash without hesitation. Lights were on inside. She wasn't asleep. She was waiting.
When I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table. Calm. Too calm. "You found it," she said without looking up. The air left my lungs. "You knew." She finally raised her eyes, and there was something in them I'd never seen before. Not guilt. Fear. "I hoped he wouldn't," she whispered. I placed the flash drive on the table between us. "Start talking." Her fingers trembled slightly. "You think your grandfather was innocent," she said quietly. "He wasn't." My chest tightened. "He was trying to expose them." "Yes," she said sharply, "after helping them." The room tilted. "What?" She closed her eyes. "Your grandfather built the structure they used, the trust, the shell systems, the land transfers. He designed it." "No," I breathed. "He thought it was legal development funding, urban revitalization projects. He didn't know they were burning properties for insurance and buying them back through layered trusts." I felt sick. "So when did he find out?" Her voice broke. "When it was too late."
Flashbacks flooded my mind. The late nights, the secrecy, the paranoia. He wasn't just afraid. He was guilty. "He tried to dismantle it," she continued. "That's why they turned on him." "And you?" I asked slowly. "Where do you fit in?" She looked at the flash drive. "They came to me first." Ice filled my veins. "They told me if he exposed them, they would ruin us, freeze accounts, destroy your future, make sure you never got into college, never got a job." I stared at her. "So you told him to stop?" Tears rolled down her face. I begged him. "And when he didn't?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. "You chose safety," I whispered. "I chose you." "No," I said, stepping back. "You chose fear." Her voice cracked. "I've watched them destroy people, judges, contractors, families. They don't lose." I leaned closer. "They will." She shook her head. "You think releasing those files will fix this? It will destroy everything, including us." "There is no us left," I said quietly. That hurt her. "Good." She reached for my hand. "Please, walk away." It was the same sentence she told Grandpa years ago. Walk away. Be quiet. Survive. But survival isn't living, and silence isn't peace. "My whole life," I said, "I thought Grandpa was reckless." She looked at me through tears. "He was brave." I picked up the flash drive. "You were about to see what that looks like." An hour later, I was sitting in a private office downtown. Not a newsroom, not the police, a federal investigative task force. Because Grandpa didn't only record files. He left contact names, encrypted, hidden inside the trust documents. One of them still believed in justice, and he'd been waiting. When I handed over the drive, the agent didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply said, "You have no idea what you just handed us." "I think I do," I replied. The arrest started 3 weeks later. Quiet at first, then loud, very loud. Federal indictments, asset freezes, property seizures. News stations calling it the largest urban development fraud case in state history. Richard Hale was arrested on financial conspiracy charges. But he wasn't the headline. The senator was. The judge was.
The investment board was. The empire cracked, just like Grandpa promised. My mother didn't call. Not after the first raid, not after the second. But one night, she left a voicemail. I was wrong, she said softly. He wasn't reckless. I was. I didn't delete it, but I didn't return it either. Some lessons cost too much. Months later, I stood outside a rebuilt community center, one that had burned down years ago. Insurance fraud, land grab, now rebuilt using recovered funds. Families walked inside, kids laughed, life moved forward. That's when I understood something. This was never revenge. Revenge is destruction. This was correction, balance, truth.
I visited Grandpa's grave that evening. I finished it, I said quietly. The wind moved through the trees. And for the first time since the night Mom threw that book away, I felt peace. Not because they fell, but because I didn't. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One sentence. There were other projects in other states. I stared at the screen, and slowly, I smiled. Because now, I wasn't afraid. And if they think this story is over, they've underestimated the wrong granddaughter.